Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you a really fun project, and it is how to make this holiday ornament. So what this started out as was a plain ball, and then I decorated it. I used some crystal clay and some filigree and some Swarovski chatons and some crystal splash and some flatbacks, and I made it very glitzy and very fancy, and I actually think it came out quite pretty. I hope you agree, and I thought I would do a video here showing you how to do it because there's a lot of different steps. So forewarned with this video, this is a long one. This does take a while. It took me about 2.5 hours to finish this ornament. It was a lot of fun. It's a great keepsake, and it's really a technique that you can apply to a lot of different ornaments. This one happened to be quite large, so that's why it took a while, as I had a lot of space to cover. So I want to show you how to do this, and I'm going to show you a little variation on this design, but the technique will be the same. So I'm going to put this aside, and it becomes kind of heavy, so you'll see it likes to roll around. So I'm going to actually put it right here in this little cup, and that way it'll be upright so I can see what's happening with it. So what you're going to need supply-wise is you're going to need an ornament, and I actually picked this up just at a local drugstore. You can find them at the grocery store during the holiday season, craft stores. And what's nice about this particular ornament is that it is shatterproof. It is plastic, so I highly recommend using a shatterproof ornament just because you're going to be manipulating it a lot, you're going to be pressing on it, you're going to be doing a lot of things to it, and I would hate for glass to shatter in your hand, of course. So if you can find shatterproof, please use it. If you can't, glass will work. The crystal clay will adhere to the glass, but be really careful. So you will need an ornament, and then you're also going to need some filigree. I have these great shapes right here. I used 3 of these shapes on this ornament, but in the design I'm going to do with you here in the video, I'm going to only use 2. And they come a little bit bent, but what I want you to do is I actually want you to shape them with your fingers so they fit the curve of the ornament wherever you're going to lay them. So that actually fits pretty well. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can see there's a gap. That's fine. The crystal clay is going to fill that in. And then I'm going to do a design here where I have this main centerpiece focal right there in the front, and that's just a different filigree shape. So I'll show you how to do that. You're going to need some crystal clay to apply to your ornament and to have all your items stick together. I recommend, just aesthetically, using the same color crystal clay as your ornament and then also as your chatons. It just gives it a little bit more of a richer look. You can definitely vary that, but if you want kind of this look that is like all one complete piece that goes together, it really helps aesthetically if you do the matching clay, ornament, and crystals. So speaking of crystals, I've got 2 bags, which are 50 each, of size PP 14 chatons. I've got 1 bag which is size PP 24, and then I've got some flatbacks as well, which are size SS 12. So that's what you're going to need, and you'll use different quantities of those, whatever you really want and are comfortable with. And then my other ingredient here is crystal splash. If you're not familiar with this, it is really fun. So it's just an abundance of crystals. They have no holes in them, and they work great for crystal clay. Really pretty. And you'll see that's what gives it this encrusted look. And what they do is, because they're clear, they show the clay through them. So they kind of take on the color of the clay a little bit. And then the only tool you're going to need is a magical pick, some type of tool to pick up your chatons with. And then that comes with this little pad here that is sticky, has a piece of tape in it, and you can just do that throughout the process to make sure that your tip is sticky and will pick them up. So let's begin. And I do apologize that this is a long video. I just want to make sure I show you how to do it. So I'm going to actually push all my supplies back. I've pulled out some white paper just so that I have a really clean work surface. I've washed my hands thoroughly. I've taken off all my rings just to make it a little bit easier to work with. And I'm going to open up my 25-gram package of red crystal clay. So this is what you have inside. It too comes with a little pick to help you pick up your crystals. This pick does work. I actually prefer the magic pick a little bit, but this will work if you don't have a magic pick. So the design we're going to do is we are going to put one of each of these on the sides, and then in the middle we're going to put this guy. So let's make sure that the one we're going to start with is molded to our ornament. And that looks pretty darn good to me. I am now going to put on the gloves. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to mix all my crystal clay at once. I want to make sure that it is as sticky as possible for as long as possible. And the curing time starts as soon as the part A and part B are mixed. And you have about 45 minutes of really good work time with it. It does say on the package that you have 2 to 2.5 hours, but I find if you're putting a lot of different crystals into it, it does start to harden and start to cure. So you don't want to go too much more than about 45 minutes once you've mixed it before you place everything. So I am going to take only enough clay to fill my filigree and then fill a little bit beyond it too for the crystal splash. So for me, I think that equals about a large pea size or a small gumball size. So if you kind of put that in there, about double that I think will be perfect. So with crystal clay, you need to mix equal amounts of part A and part B. And this is a self-hardening epoxy clay, so you don't need to bake it. And so I find the easiest way to make sure that you have exactly the right amounts of part A and part B is to make 2 little balls. And I can tell that my part B is a little smaller, so I'm just going to pinch off a little bit more, add it to it, and roll that ball again. There we go, and that looks even. And now because it doesn't actually start to cure until part A and part B are mixed, I'm going to go ahead right now, pinch off another, what I think is an equal amount. I might want my balls a little bit smaller, just a hair. Just keep playing with it. There's no harm in just making sure you get the right amount, because it's not going to cure properly if you don't have equal amounts. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to make matching ball sizes since I have 2 of these filigree pieces. That way when it comes time to do the next one, it's already ready to go and I know I've used the same amount of clay. Okay, those all look pretty darn good to me. So I'm actually going to take one of my hardener balls, put it back into my little clay packet, but I'm not going to squish it. I'm going to do the same with one of my red balls. Close those up so they don't dry out, and put that aside. Now I'm just going to squish them together, and I'm going to keep squishing and keep mixing until all striations are gone. You want a nice uniform color. So just mix back and forth. It'll take 2 to 3 minutes. All right, once it's fully mixed, go ahead, roll it into a ball. And now I want you to try to just, in a general sense, mimic the shape of the piece that you're going to put it on behind, so the filigree in this case. So that's kind of a triangle shape. So just very basic. Kind of flatten it out a little too. Okay, and at this point, you're going to want to take off your gloves. Put them aside. You're going to need to put them back on later. But you can take them off for right now. So this is sticky, but is not so sticky that I can't touch it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on my filigree on the back side. And I'm going to just carefully spread it to the edges. And for my design, I want it to not surpass the edges up here, but I do want it to be a little longer and wider down at the base. So right now I'm just pressing it, not too hard, into the back of the filigree to fill in that space. You can see what it looks like from the top side. Okay, and now I want to I'm actually kind of pulling it a little from the back. And squishing it and pressing it and squishing it. So just so it goes beyond the edges. Okay, and now I'm ready to put it onto my ornament. So my ornament has a seam. Why not just cover that seam with this pretty decorative piece? So I'm just going to do that. So you see there's a little notch in my filigree. I'm going to line that up with the seam, just up towards the edge here. And now I'm going to press on the part of the filigree that doesn't have holes. And you can see it squishing out. That's okay. I'm going to go back and do something decorative at the very end. So now what I want to do is I want it to squish out some of these top holes because that's going to make it easier to adhere my chatons to. So I'm just pressing it. And this too is why it's good if you have a shatterproof ornament because you are applying some pressure. See what it looks like from the side. Okay, now I want to just go ahead, squish this down. Really press that into place. So kind of look at it, make sure you're happy with how that looks. I like the kind of the look of just being encrusted, so this doesn't have to be perfect. If you want it to be, you can really work on it and go ahead and squish it around and make sure that it is all even, but I don't really feel that's necessary for this design, but you can if you want to. So now time to apply some chatons. And this is going to roll around. The moment you put it down, it's going to roll to the bottom, which is fine because it is heavy. And when I say heavy, I don't mean it's super heavy, it's just heavy for the plastic ornament. Right, so to pick up the chatons, I'm just going to pick it up with my magic pick and place it into the clay. And that's why you want the clay to squish out, because you want to have some clay for it to be placed into. It's up to you where you want to place these chatons. There's no right or wrong way. If you can see, I'm just picking it up. Just pick it up on the tip and putting it in a place. And that actually looks good to me. I'm pretty happy with those there. So now I'm going to go add some smaller ones. It can be kind of fun figuring out where you want to place these. And I think that's good. Maybe I'll do 2 more and then we'll call it good for this part. All right, so now time to add the crystal splash. To do that, pour some out on your table. I'm actually going to take a little pile in my hand and just squish it into the clay. You can do a little bit at a time. You could do one at a time. You can try to do several at a time. Whatever you like. And they will fall off, not once they're stuck in there, but they will fall off as you're trying to apply them and you don't actually get them into the clay. But just keep going, keep applying them. And you want to squish them into that clay. You want them to really have a good hold. Okay, so once you've pretty much filled it in after just like a rough fill in, what I want you to do is I want you to take some smaller crystal splash and fill in any big gaps. I also want you to look at the edges and see if there's anywhere that you can squish a little crystal as well. And you can just kind of feel free to like really push these in there and make them move around and make them expose extra little areas of clay. See how I have a gap right there? So I'm just going to place that crystal and just push it on in there. Move some of the other ones around so that it fills a gap. So a crystal won't stay unless it has enough clay to grab onto, and you'll be able to feel when it grabs it. So don't be surprised if you have one or two that do pop off. You can always use some E6000 glue to glue them in place afterwards. But they will stay. If they have enough of a good hold on that clay, they will stay. All right, so there's one side. And then so if you look at this ornament here, you can see we've actually done 3 segments like this. I'm going to put this ornament right here in the little cup. All right, so here's one segment. This is a totally separate unit. This was done later. Here's another segment, and here's another segment, and they were all done identical to this. So if you were wanting to do this pattern, you would just do 3 of these, and then what I did was I took clay and I just put a nice big blob of clay there with a narrow little stem between the filigree pieces, and then push the crystal splash into it. So that's how this one was done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now go and do the other one off camera, just because I don't want to take up your time with it. You've just seen the technique. And then when I come back, I'll have the other one done, this one done of course, and then I'll show you how to do a nice focal piece as well. As you can see, I've gone ahead and I've done the other side. So now we have 2 sides done. If you were doing this design over here, you would do 3. And now what I'm going to do is I want a focal piece. I want this piece right here. And I've already started to bend it so that I'll fit my ball, but I'm going to bend it a little bit more. And what's great about these silver-plated stampings is they're pretty flexible. You can actually just bend them with your fingers. You don't need a mandrel or any special tool. I'm going to keep bending it until it really conforms to that round shape. That looks pretty good. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and that's one of the beauties of using this crystal splash, is that it kind of fills in all those gaps. You don't have to worry so much. So what I want to do now is I want to apply it. So I'm going to need some crystal clay, and it's going to be the same method as we used to put these on. But what I want to do is I'm going to look at it here and see, I know that I'm going to want to fill in this area up here and right around here with more crystal splash. So I can't use all my clay at this point. I have to make sure I leave a little bit extra. So when I put my gloves back on and I pick how much clay, I'm going to keep that in mind. So time for the gloves again. Pretty well used at this point, but still definitely work. All right, so I'm going to take my red. I'm going to say I want to probably leave hopefully about that much extra clay. It's going to be a little bit tight on this one. but it's gonna work. Maybe a little less. Okay, roll that into a ball. Same as before, we want to make matching balls. A little too much hardener. Pinch it away. That looks good to me. So now I'm going to go ahead, squish them up, and mix them together. All right, it's all mixed. So now I rolled it into a ball, and I'm going to flatten my ball. Again, you're just going to adapt this process for whatever piece of filigree you're using and how much crystal splash you want to use. Just kind of take these techniques and use them as a guideline for whatever you're doing. All right, so I'm going to take off my gloves. I'm going to look at this again, see where I want to put it. I think it's going to go right about there. So I'm going to go ahead, put that in the center. And on this one, I don't think I want a lot of crystal splash coming out the bottom, so I'm going to be kind of careful and just pull this and squish it, but I don't really want it to squish out the bottom part too much on this one. You can see from this side what it looks like. But I do want to squish out the top because I want to fill that in with splash. So I'm going to, again, eyeball that. Don't want that one actually to pull out too much either. It's more right up at this top part. So I'm just going to pull it out and squish. Okay, so I feel like I'm good to go ahead and put this on. So just line it up. And I can tell actually I got a lot of clay there. If you're looking at that, I might squish this just a little bit more because I want more to come out the top. So I'm going to just kind of push it up. Wash your hands really good with soap and water after you do this. Alrighty, so that looks pretty darn good to me. So I am just going to go from the center and press. Oops, looked a little uneven there. There we go. Again, I'm really happy I have a shatterproof ball at this point because I am applying a bit of pressure here. I'm just going to squish that and fill it all in with splash. I'm not, see that looks nice, it's not coming out the bottom there, which I'm happy about. But I do want some clay to squish out of these holes, so I have something to put my stones in. I can tell I'm a little uneven. I'm just going to carefully move it. That looks pretty darn good. So now I'm going to go back, fill in some of these holes with my stones. Same process, you pick one up and press it down into place. Just do it wherever you like. No real rhyme or reason here. Alright, so you can see what stones I have left here. And so far I've only used one pack of each. So I'm kind of a firm believer if I can make it work with less ingredients, I'm going to. So whereas this ornament used 2 packs of the smaller and 1 pack of the larger, I think I can get away with just 1 pack of each for this ornament. So why not? So I'm just going to take some of my bigger ones, which I have left, and just put them wherever I want. Just make sure there's enough clay for them to stick into. Otherwise you're going to have to go back. Like this doesn't really have enough clay. So I'm probably, if I put it there, I'm going to have to go back and add some glue later. That one too, so that one might just need to be glued in as an afterthought later. I'll go back and do that. That looks pretty good to me, so I will go back and I'm going to glue that one in there later, which shall be fine. So now I have this stuff up here, and it's still quite fresh. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to mix up what I have left of my crystal clay right now, and then I'm going to fill in the gaps so I could do that all at once with the crystal splash. So I'm going to take what I have left of my red and roll it into a ball. You would think I should have equal parts of part A and part B, and that would be the hope. But I'm still going to roll it into a ball because you never know if I had a little bit off here or there on those other segments. And it looks like I did. So I'm just going to pinch a little bit of part B away, and that's going to now match up. Oops. All right, so I'm going to mix this up. Okay, that ball is all mixed up. And my hands are quite sticky, so I don't really want to touch my ornament, but I do want to look at where I'm going to want to put this clay. I think I'm going to want to do like a little line right here. So I'm going to pinch off little segments. So that should do for right in there. And then I need like a little tube shape to go along the edge. So this is what you're going to do if you're doing a different design at home. You're just going to look at it, identify what you need, and then make a shape accordingly and fill it in accordingly. So. Okay, and I got just a little bit left. I'm going to decide what to do with that at the end. Okay, gloves are coming off for the final time, thankfully. All right, so now I want to do my finishing touches. So I'm going to shape that. I'm going to put that right in there. Smooth it out a little bit. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and just fill that with my crystal splash right now. So you probably see these popping off, and you can hear them popping off, and that's just because they've been laid on top of the clay. They've not been pressed fully into it. So you just want to make sure you really do press your crystals into that clay. Even if it's a matter of just like moving them around a little bit, it's going to be fine. You want them to get a good solid foothold in there, which I know I've mentioned before. It's really important. Otherwise, they're not going to stay for you. So that looks good. So now I'm going to go and do the back side. Remember, I made this little coil. Looks like it's going to be a little long. Just pinch it off. And press it into place as well. I do want to fill in those two little gaps because I want it to look like it goes all the way around. Just going to put a little ball right there. And another one right there. Okay. Again, we're just going to go ahead and fill it in. You can even take the end of your magic pick if you want and really push the crystals into place if you need to. so we've got this done so far. So, and we have a little bit of extra clay, so I do want to go ahead and use it. And I think where I want to use it is right here and right here. So, put that back in the little cup. I'm going to divide this in half, keeping out just a little emergency pile. Those are kind of cone shapes. I'm just going to make it into a little cone shape. And I'm just going to press it into place. Can do the same on the other side. Time to add more crystals. Okay, so now I'm going to do the other side. Alright, and there we go. We have the top part of our ornament done. You can shake it off and make sure all the crystals are set. You might hear a couple drop off. See if they were just loose on top or if you need to fill a hole. I see a little hole right there. Just going to take a crystal, pop it into place. Okay, so that's the top part of our ornament, and all that's left now is to go back and add the little polka dots, which will be the flatback rhinestones. What I suggest doing is go ahead and let this cure overnight. Let it dry, let it fully harden. So when you start turning it around, manipulating it to put on the little polka dots, that way you're not going to dislodge anything here. So I would do that right now, take a break, come back to it tomorrow morning, and you'll finish it up. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, it'll be fully cured, and we'll be ready to go ahead and add the final touch. We've patiently waited, and now the crystal clay on our ornament has cured. And so now we're just going to add the little sparkles. And to do that, we're going to use some E6000 glue. I have a little post-it note to put it on. We're going to use these flatbacks, which are size SS12. And then you need like a toothpick or piece of wire as an applicator. And since I didn't use the little wax stick that came with my crystal clay, I'm going to use it to apply these. So put some E6000 down on your paper. It dries really quick, so don't put a lot down at once. You're going to have to add more. So you're just going to take your applicator, get a little bit on there, and you don't want a lot. Now if there's any imperfection with your ornament, go ahead and put a dot right over it. Now what's kind of cool about using the wax stick is I can just turn it around and pick up my flat back. Otherwise I'd have to use the magic pick again. And we are just going to do this. We're going to get a little bit of glue, put a little dot on your ornament, go ahead, pick up a flat back, and press it into the glue. And I'm just going to do this at random intervals. I just want it to look basically like polka dots, like little crystal polka dots. Try not to put too much glue that it squishes over or creates like a line. You want it to be pretty clean. And then what you're going to do is just rotate your ornament around. You'll see this is already drying, so if that happens, just kind of rub your stick on your little pad there to get off the excess, and pick up some more glue. Okay, so you see what we've got going here. Pretty little dots. I need a little bit more glue. It's getting a little bit dried out for me. Again, I need a little more glue, and it's okay because this is cured to just let it sit like that. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and looking at my flatbacks here, I can tell I only have 4 left. So what you can do, a couple of these little crystals are coming off. If you need to, you can go ahead and glue them back in place, or it's probably just a fact that they were just kind of on top of other ones. So you can either just make it work with however many flatbacks you have left, which is what I'm going to do here, because you're not going to really see the bottom of this ornament, or you can purchase another pack of flatbacks. It's whatever you want. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to add a little bit more glue, and I'm just going to add a couple where it might be seen and not worry about the rest. Not worry about the very, very bottom. So I've got 4 left. Put them in the most obvious spots. All right, there we go. We are done. I know this was a hugely long project, but I think it was worth it. So there you have your ornament. So feel free to play around with this technique. Have fun with what you choose to embed in the clay, with the crystal splash, the pattern, the polka dots. Just kind of let yourself play. It's a great way of exploring your creativity and just having fun at the holidays. So these 2 ornaments here, both made using the same technique. You can tell they look quite different though, which is nice. And you can see all of the ingredients and further details at Beadaholique.com in the free projects section, and both of these will be under crafts or under our holiday projects.